Hey everybody, this is Quinn Devery at Paranet Solutions. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about your cloud cheat sheet. We're going to cover SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. Don't know of an acronym for that, exactly how it would be pronounced. I haven't heard anything, so if you have, feel free to comment at the bottom. Real quick, wanted to tell you what we're going to get out of it today. You're going to get out, who are the users of these three cloud types, some major players in each of those areas, and some examples. And then for the technical people that want more than a really high level, we're going to have a brief definition. So this is really aimed at intro. Maybe you don't know what cloud is, or you keep hearing about it and you're not sure. This is going to answer those questions for you. So 3 things to remember. SaaS is what you use as a user. So example might be email. Everybody uses email, but say if you're in the accounting department, it might be your accounting software, and it could be in a SaaS format. If you're a salesperson, it could be a CRM, and you're accessing that in a SaaS format. If you're a lawyer, you have document management software. PaaS, or platform as a service, compared to software as a service, is what developers use. So if you're not a developer, you're probably never going to come across this in your normal day-to-day work activity. But just like the .NET framework or Ruby on Rails or PHP, platform as a service is what developers use. Last, we have infrastructure as a service, or IaaS. Don't try to repeat that. Just go with infrastructure as a service. But this is what your IT departments typically use. Includes things like virtual machines or SQL services, and the IT department's really the ones that consume these services. So with that, we're going to jump into some examples for software as a service, or the providers of that. You guys are probably familiar with Google, Gmail, Google Documents, Google Talk. All of Google's applications are delivered as a software as a service. Salesforce is another really popular Fortune 1000 firm. No software, that's their motto. But they started with CRM, and now they're branching out into financials and HR functionality, but probably somebody you've heard of. And again, all these are users. So users consume these software as a service applications. And then third example, Microsoft. They just launched their Office 365 recently, and that includes all of their typical software applications like Excel and PowerPoint that we've used for years and years and years now. I love this example because you have what we've used on our desktop or our laptop, and then they're taking that and putting it in the cloud. And that's a great example for SaaS because it's going to be the same program. You're just going to access it through your web browser, and it's going to be a software as a service. Next, platform as a service providers. Salesforce.com. A lot of the SaaS providers have platforms as well. So Force.com, you can actually develop code for their software as a service applications. You can add extensions, you can customize it, and they call that platform Force.com. Google might be one of the first platforms as a service for the developers. A lot of open source. They call theirs is Google App Engine. A lot of code snippets. And then a new player, not necessarily in virtualization, but in platform as a service, VMware has really been putting together a strong open stack or open source platform as a service for developers, supporting PHP and Ruby on Rails compared to Microsoft, whereas Microsoft has their Azure App Fabric. And again, these are going to be consumed by your developers. So if someone wants to write a new application, they can use a platform as a service from any of these providers. And what it does is it immediately converts it into a software as a service application. So it just deploys as a SaaS when you use a platform as a service. Last cloud, infrastructure as a service. Microsoft, their Azure cloud, I believe about a year ago, they allowed people, instead of just using it as a development, that they could purchase computing power or infrastructure as a service. So some examples of that would be your SQL services for databases. You can say, I want so many gigabytes, I want to be able to process this amount of data, and I want this many servers with Intel chips, and just go with it and run it for a week on some data intensive reports, and then after a week turn it off and you only paid for what you use. Amazon has been real big here. Their EC3 cloud's really popular. They've had some hiccups with things going down, their storage network services being integrated, and then when one node went down, it rippled through their entire network. They made some improvements, but Amazon's a big player in this infrastructure as a service. Some players that you may not be familiar with: Rackspace, SoftLayer, and then Paranet. We have our own cloud, and it's actually run by VMware, and we extend it to our clients. And Rackspace does the same thing, SoftLayer does the same thing, and they actually use these VMware software or Hyper-V software to virtualize, and then they can sell infrastructure as a service. So you could go to Rackspace today and purchase so many computing cycles. And then lastly, you can actually be your own infrastructure as a service provider if you want to. You can virtualize and develop your own private cloud internally as an infrastructure as a service cloud, and then you can charge your accounting department how many cycles they use, or charge your sales department how many cycles they use, and your development department how many cycles they use. So with that, we'll move on to the technical aspect of it, or definitions, just for people that were interested. Software as a service, what is it? It's really just hosted applications that can only be accessed via the internet. So you have to have a web browser. There's nothing to install. Everything has to be able to run through your web browser. It's consumed by users. Platform as a service, it's a hosted development platform for deploying SaaS apps. So SaaS, software as a service, you can go to one of the platforms as a service, deploy your code, and launch the application, and the application will be only delivered through that web browser, which has trade-offs. One of the benefits being the uniform updates for all the users, lighter computing power on the server, and you can deploy a SaaS without having to build up your own ASP model. And lastly, infrastructure as a service. You're really just paying for the use of the IT resources instead of owning them. So instead of someone going and saying, I want $1 million for new server equipment, and I think we'll use it for 3 or 5 years, and you pay that monthly payment for that server, that $1 million every month, but maybe in December it's not as busy for you, and so you only use half the computing power, and then in some peak months in the summer, you really need more than 100% of what you've already purchased, but you're stuck with what you've bought. Infrastructure as a service instead would be you only get charged for what you use in December, you only get charged in what you use for July. So kind of like your electricity, you get a higher bill in July and a lower bill in December, at least if you're in Texas like I am. So again, 3 things to remember. For SaaS, it's what you use or the user uses. PaaS, or platform as a service, is what developers use. And then infrastructure as a service is what IT departments use. So in closing, that's it. That's really all it is. There's your cloud cheat sheet. Again, this is my contact information. You can email me. Also encourage you guys to follow us on our social networks as we post webinars, post invites, offer free ebooks. I'll also convert this into SlideShare, and we'll share it through our social networks. So thanks for watching. Hope you got a lot out of it.